Hey everyone, and welcome back to the show. In the third part of our interview series with novelist and filmmaker Mikel Wisler, we dive into the business of writing books and making movies. There's a lot to learn here, especially for those just jumping in. Mikel talks about the first steps for film and books, as well as some of the mistakes to avoid in the process. Mikel gives his take on the indie film scene in 2026 and shares some insights on the many ways you can take your passion project and make it your new job. Citywide Blackout starts right now.
Welcome to Citywide Blackout, the place where writers, musicians, and creators from cities all over the world come to hang out, dive into their works, peel back the curtain on their creative process, and provide knowledgeable, actionable insight that you can apply to your own creative masterpieces. With decades of journalism, media, and entertainment industry experience, your hosts Max Bowen and Curtis Hughes provide fun, informative, and sometimes outrageously bizarre interviews that will keep you enlightened and entertained with a few F-bombs thrown in for emphasis. So put up your feet, grab a beverage, and let's go.
Well, folks, I really hope you enjoyed that discussion about artificial intelligence and time travel, because now I'm talking again with Mikel Wisler to talk about business, the business of film and the business of writing. So, Mikel, let's start from the very beginning here. Let's say there's someone at home. They're hearing this conversation. They think, I want to make a movie. What's a good starting point?
Man, starting point for making movies. I think one of the things that is beautiful about this moment that we're in is that the tools truly have been democratized. And in so many ways, when I was starting off as a filmmaker, I was in the early phases of what was labeled the digital revolution, right? Where digital cameras became affordable and they became better and slowly achieved a more cinematic look. Now it's just you can do some pretty ridiculous stuff with your iPhone, and there are affordable microphones and there's affordable lighting. So if you want to get started, the biggest thing is just get started. Experiment, get your hands dirty, start doing things, pick up your iPhone and go shoot stuff. That's the number one thing to do is just experiment. If you're really serious, if you find that you're really enjoying this and you're I want to take this to the next level, it's really about finding community. Filmmaking is a communal thing. It is something that even the smallest films are not made alone. You need a network. Honestly, look for the community events, networking events. Certainly, if you're in the New England area, one of the best things I can recommend for you is the Women in Film and Video New England networking events. They're actually open to all genders. Essentially, are you in favor of and supportive of women in film? I co-direct with a woman. Obviously, I am. Yes. And but yeah, look for those kinds of community events so you can network and be humble. Get out there and even volunteer to maybe go help for a day or two on a set. Just be a PA and learn, take notes, and then start getting experience, getting in there in more crew positions and getting paid to work crew. Be ready for feedback. I think one of the things that whether you're a writer or a filmmaker, whatever artwork you're working in, if you are serious about wanting to pursue this as something that you really want to do and you want to do it at a professional level, there is a level of be ready for feedback and understand that your earliest efforts, I think it's Ira Glass that talks about the gap between your taste and your work and how early on, right, there's a big gap there because your stuff just doesn't measure up to your taste. You have good taste, but you don't. And so be open to that feedback and open to improving and understanding that those early efforts are always going to be learning experience. And actually, all efforts are going to be learning experience. There's tons of stuff I learned shooting proxy. The most recent thing that I'm like, yeah, next time we're doing that differently. We're gonna improve on that. But if you approach it humbly and from a place of serving the storytelling and genuinely trying to make good art, and it's not about ego, you can collaborate amazingly with people and you can grow so much. Yeah, get out there, meet people, and just start making stuff.
Mm-hmm. How about the indie film scene in 2026? What would you say is like the state of it?
It's a fascinating place. Having just attended Frontiers Market, which is at Fantasia, it's specifically geared towards genre films and genre independent films, but they also host a Frontiers Market at the Cannes Film Festival. So they're kind of, in both spaces there, really working on connecting filmmakers with independent co-production companies and distributors and all that kind of stuff. And my sense from it is that it's still very much a vibrant world. It is currently, now, if you want to talk about, independent film globally is one thing. Because especially, being in Canada, and then there's all these partnerships that Canada can have with European nations that the US can't. We don't have the same treaties. So it's one of those things where we need to improve some of the things. For the longest time, I think because Hollywood was Hollywood and it isn't anymore. But there was this sense of like, whatever, we make movies, like, come to us. Meanwhile, the real business partnership opportunities were formed between Europe and Canada. And so in that sense, the independent film market in Canada and in Europe is doing pretty well. They also have grants and all kinds of governments. Their government likes art. Their governments in general seem to like value art. Ours, not so much. Yeah, so it's a different story here in the United States, I think, that independent film is still very much a reality and it is happening. But I think we are in a tough state right now. We're kind of in a transition. Everything's kind of in transition because of technology, because of the economic reality that we live in. It's so much cheaper to, honestly, your money goes further if you just shoot in Canada or shooting in Europe, right? We have been wondering for a while, are we going to end up shooting our first feature, in England or Ireland or, Croatia? Who knows? We don't want to shoot where labor is exploited. That's one of the key things we have. We do actually want to work with unions. But yeah, having said all of that, the state of independent film is in huge flux right now. That doesn't mean there aren't opportunities, but it does mean that getting things made and getting that yes is that much more challenging because most of the sort of resources for that have kind of moved elsewhere. Particularly like funding and certainly partnering with some of the smaller branches of sort of the studio system, if you will, that support more the indie film. A lot of that stuff is being actively just done outside of the US at this point. And so it takes a certain level of resilience and creativity. It doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means that the business has shifted and there is a lot of figuring out how are you going to build your audience beforehand and bring it to those gatekeepers in a way. And I think that's why now there's all this crazy buzz about like, Backrooms and Obsession, because they're YouTubers who like went and made these movies. And there is some truth to the fact that, yes, they built an audience. And there is a reality to be grappled there, to be dealt with there for most, I think, indie filmmakers, people aspiring to do indie film. That it's like, yeah, you do have to do the legwork. It's not just, I have a cool script and I am going to pitch it, and magic will happen. Like when people will fund it, and it will get distributed and blah, blah, blah.
Wait, it doesn't work like that? Come on.
It never has quite worked like that, but
Right.
certainly more so today than ever. I feel like there is a reality of, do you have an audience, and have you proven yourself with that? And so that's, a lot of the legwork that we have been doing, and why we're actually actively doing more things. So actually, we're going to be releasing one of our short films, or early ones, Subscribed, as a segmented, serialized vertical thing now, because that's a whole different way to tap in to an audience that we can then leverage to be able to show, like, hey, look, we have people who are actively interested in our stuff. And they're not just the people who are showing up to Flickrs or Genre Blast or other film festivals, right? They are people that are online. These are people that are likely, at least, to buy a ticket or to hit play if this thing's available on Amazon or Netflix or wherever, So there is a level of, like, I think you have to strategize more so than just, I have this one cool movie idea. You really need to think about the entire ecosystem of where your story's taking place and how you're actually reaching your ideal viewer.
How about beginning as a writer? They have the idea for a book. What's a good starting point if you just have an idea but aren't too sure how to express it?
I think that's where the best thing to do, like, YouTube is your friend in so many ways. I actually learned so many important skills I needed to just do an emergency remodel on my home back in 2016 by watching YouTube. And I still watch all kinds of YouTube content around storytelling and writing, querying agents, all that stuff. So there is a wealth. We have never had so much wonderful educational information at our fingertips before. So take advantage of that. That would be my advice to anyone who's like, oh, I want to write. Like, yes, that's awesome. Dive in and start learning and learning about different writers' processes. Because the key thing about writing is there's no one right way to do it, no one correct way. There's also no one approach that even one author applies every single time, right? Sometimes it's different per project. So just learn about the things that are out there, the different approaches, and join communities. Again, I think community is so important, especially because writing can be so solitary. My advice would be, think about the genre that you want to write in, and then look around and go, oh, what events happen in my area that are connected to that? So for me, as a science fiction writer, I'm going to things like Aresia and BossCon and ReaderCon, all these cons that happen for science fiction and fantasy writers, speculative fiction writers, that are happening right here around Boston. And because it's an opportunity to network with people and to go to panels, listen to panels where you actually glean valuable information from them about everything from how do I outline a book, or to how do I query an agent, or what's the best process for going about self-publishing. Whatever route you want to take, there's resources there. So yeah, I think take advantage of all those resources. Get on the internet, start looking, because there are lots of wonderful communities out there. Now, be careful of scammers, like where they're asking for money. There are things that are worth paying for. So I'm doing a program right now to help me learn the marketing side of being an author. And it's been a fantastic program for that. Just be savvy and be wary of people who want to take advantage. But that's where just getting into good communities and good Facebook groups that are just fellow writers trying to encourage each other can be really helpful.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you about YouTube, because I use it for two big things. One is tech support. for
Yeah.
like, why does my microphone make this sound? Why am I noticing this thing when I record? Why does the program keep on crashing? Also for doing voice work, because there's a lot of voice actors who are putting their knowledge out there. And I have lost track of things sometimes on Google, how to do this accent, how to do this kind of voice, all these, what should I do before I start recording? And and it's all out there. Like you said, we have all this information right at our fingertips, being given to us by the experts, people who are proven in the field. So it's a good time I think, to be working the arts, because whatever question you have, it's been answered.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think with that, I will also say there's a bit of a paradox there. Yeah, go learn, but don't get caught up in the paralysis of analysis, right? Like,
oh God,
just like gleaning information, just start writing. Also, there's the doing part of it that's really important.
I think the biggest piece of advice I hear, and I love it, is don't wait for the perfect time, because it will never happen.
And I think with that too, especially because I relate to this heavily with like having a full schedule, full-time job, and like, where do you fit it in? It's like, give yourself permission to chip away.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to get up a little bit early, and I'm going to like have 15 or 30 minutes that I'm just going to like try to write a page.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to chip away day after day, or maybe the morning isn't your time. That's totally okay. Is it your lunch break? Is it in the evening? Whenever you have the space for it, and you also feel like you're awake and alive and able to do it. And yeah, giving yourself permission to chip away at it is so freeing, because it takes away the pressure of being like, I got to find a day where I have like 6 hours. The truth is, honestly, even like seasoned writers, 4 hours of writing, you're like, wow, you're toast.
Yeah.
you can go sit in a corner and cry now.
Right.
It's exhausting.
You look back at page and think, well, I wrote the letter K for about 16 pages, so I should probably stop.
Sure. Yeah, it's time for a break.
No, but I definitely agree with you, because like for me and the voice work, it's the same thing. I don't sit down for like 8 hours and record. I would love to. That'd be great. But I have a full-time job. I have other responsibilities. So what I do is I sit down in the morning for about 20 minutes, half an hour, and I record. And whatever I get done, I get done. And then I edit it after I get home from work. So it's, I do what I can where I can. If you write a paragraph a day, that's more than you had yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things, like, you sound a bit like my therapist.
I've been told that on more than one occasion, actually. I once had a guest on the show, and he was going through a rough time. And I think like a good third of our conversation was just me talking him down, basically.
Yeah.
From like a sad spot. So I was like, all right, well, sorry, do I get paid for this part? Do I bill your insurance company or what here? We talked about beginnings. Now let's talk about endings in terms of making this kind of stuff into a career. What's your advice for achieving that goal?
I think,
heavy question, I know.
Yeah, this is a big question, because it's like, what's my advice for achieving that goal? I don't think you should listen to me. I haven't achieved it yet.
The end. Next question.
What does this guy know? But I'm trying.
Sure.
I think the biggest thing is figuring out what your long-term goals are, and then how to break them down and how to chip away at them. That's definitely one of the big things that I've been working on, because it's different. What a career even in this looks like is different for many people, because many people do just want to be able to write books, or they want to make short films, and they don't necessarily expect those things to be their primary form of income. If it took off and it became that, wonderful, right? But so for some people, that's success. So I think that the first question is, what does success look like for you? What are you defining as what you want your career to be? Because maybe writing a few books and having ancillary income is like, that's exactly what you want, and that's very achievable. If you want to be J.K. Rowling and be swimming in money, like then that's those are outliers, right? Or be Andy Weir, right? That he's a bit of an outlier that way. Those things happen, but it's a bit like winning the lottery. I think that's where it begins first with what is your mindset and what you're trying to achieve. And if you really do want to build a career, like I'll be honest, my ultimate goal, my objective, yeah, I want ultimately to reach a place where writing books and making movies is the primary means I am earning an income. Now, I'm not the kind of person who needs millions of dollars to be alive. So, like, the threshold of what that income needs to be is a lot lower than maybe for some other people. But I'll take what I can get. But I would like it to be my primary form of income. And to that end, then I think what happens with that is that has allowed me to reframe my thought process around, okay, so this is a business I'm running. And because of that, there's a lot of other things I have to do with it. So even on the days when the day is entirely mine, unless I'm on a deadline, under contract to deliver a book, I'm probably not going to write the entire day. I need to also do the other things and understand that no matter what, even in your dream job, right, there are going to always be those things that are like, ugh, I do have to do that, but it's just necessary. So understand that there is a lot of like learning, marketing, and navigating the realities of social media and networking, attending events. Maybe you're not the most extroverted person, but like these are still like important steps, and you figure out which ones you get the most mileage out of and you lean more heavily into those, right? But yeah, it's developing a strategy, and it's learning continuously how the world is shifting and what other people are doing that is working, so that you can continue to refine what you're doing, both on the creative side and also on the very practical side of, well, how am I actually getting this stuff out there so it can earn me an income? And the first thing is people need to know my art exists. The right people who would be interested in need to know. So how am I reaching them?
What you said earlier is very true. Like a good chunk of this Sky lifestyle, it's paperwork. It's sending emails, it's doing social media posts, it's doing the tedium that you really hate to do, but yeah, you still gotta do it. I also say too, even if it never becomes a full-time job, it does not mean that you have failed.
That's
because
right.
you kept doing it.
I think that's a wonderful thing. Yeah, that is a wonderful thing to say, because like that is true. That the only real failure is if you give up. If you're truly passionate about it and it lights you up inside. I was working. I'm actually writing a novel version of Code Demon, and I was working on it earlier today, and just had one of those moments where it's like, oh, this is a cool little thing that I just came up with here, and I was just like that. That's why I keep doing this, even if it's I can never actually make any money off of this, and I gotta go back to being a barista or something. I'm still so glad I'm doing this, and if that's you, then like keep doing it, keep chipping away at it.
Exactly. But what would you say are some of the bigger mistakes that folks make when it comes to either film or books?
Ooh, man, mistakes. I mean, there's a lot. it's just, I think probably in both, there's a certain level of lack of humility that hampers people's ability to get in their own way. One of the things that I learned the hard way when I was younger, I was a producer on a micro budget feature film that a college buddy of mine was making. And one of the to make a very long story short, what I learned in that, what ultimately turned into kind of a nightmare scenario, was that if you're in a hurry, if you're more in love with the end result and you're in a hurry to just get to the end result, you're going to get in your own way and you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. Be in love with the process. And I think that's true whether you're writing or if you're making movies. Like, you need to love the process and you need to love the growth that you can achieve. And that was certainly a situation where I think, unfortunately, he was more in love with the idea of, I have made a feature film, and had, I think, also unrealistic expectations, right? Needed a reality check along the way there. Like, our little digital micro budget feature shot in Indiana is probably not getting into Sundance, but but in the beginning we have that naivety, and that's the hard path to walk, because at the same time, the naivety of like diving in and just doing something is also necessary. Like, I don't want to downplay the reality that, like, a little bit of that naivety is actually really helpful. So it's this balancing act of, how do you walk into this with the optimism of, yes, I can do something, but also the realistic understanding that it's going to be difficult, and it's probably going to be harder than I expect it to be. And there are going to be curveballs that I never saw coming, that I'm just going to have to figure out. And I think also part of that too is, it's okay to experiment, and it's okay to say, you know what, on second thought, this isn't for me. Because it's not for everybody. Whether it's writing, filmmaking, art of any kind, it's okay to try it out and then to be like, I think I want to do something else. And that's not failure, that's discovery.
Exactly. I actually had a chance to make my own movie a while back.
Nice. Wonderful.
And picture two trains colliding at Mach 4, loaded with about 500 tons of Semtex. It was that bad.
Oh, no.
And I learned an important lesson.
Yeah.
Do I look back and say, oh man, the money and the time? No. It was a good experience. I'm glad I got to have it, but you know what? It's not for me. And that's okay, because now I'm doing something that I love to do, which is this show. You try different things, like you said. You try different things, screw around a bit. Something will land and something won't. But until you give it a shot, you just never damn know.
Right. Absolutely. Exactly. Absolutely. I think that's a valuable lesson. And I think we, as a culture, shy away from the idea of failure. I think that's the other thing that, like, the biggest mistake in so many ways that you can make in any artistic realm is to be petrified of failure.
Exactly. Which is stupid, because you are going to fail. A lot. Yeah. A bunch. Like just assume that the first draft of anything you do is going to be horrible, because it probably will be.
Yep.
I mean, I've talked to writers who say, I wrote a book about 100,000 words. I threw 70,000 of it away.
Right. Yeah.
It happens all the time. You writers who will say, I wrote this book that now is like a bestseller. Totally destroyed the first draft. It's just how it goes. It's just, you are going to fail a bunch, but that's how you get better.
It is.
Succeeding teaches you nothing other than that you can do the thing you did. Failure teaches you 1,000 things. Yeah,
absolutely. It's so true. And so that's where the only real failure is not learning.
Exactly. Well, Michael, we're coming down to the end of this conversation, but a couple more questions before we go. Any parting words for the listeners, especially as they begin or traverse through their own artistic journeys?
Parting words. Yeah, I would say, look, the world is pretty uncertain and strange. And especially in light of how it feels like devalued art and creativity is at this point. Like, it's just this stuff it's fodder for AI. We're just going to we're literally destroying books now that to be scanned into AI. So it can feel very like, it's discouraging and devalued. And I want to say, no, it's like we need human, real, genuinely human art that speaks to this moment more than ever. We need more people creating, not less. And like no one is my competition. You are my fellow partner in creating art. And I believe there is abundance of opportunity for all of us. And it's important to keep that in mind, even because I think, especially in the society we're living in, everything is so commodified. And there's such a desire to just transform most of us into consumers of products and just fill up all our time, right, with that consumption. But even if no one else is even going to see your art, even if ultimately you decide, you know what, I wrote that whole book or I painted this thing and I'm not really ready to show it to anybody, the time you spend doing that will teach you so many things about yourself, and it will always be time well spent. So still go make your art.
I like that. I really do. Well, Mikel, as always, a pleasure to speak to you. Hopefully it will not be another 7 years before we do this again. But one more time for the folks at home. MikelWisler.com, MikelWisler. Everything is there. Certainly check out Proxy, get yourself a copy of Stop, and looking forward to many more great things down the road.
Well, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks for listening to this episode, and please subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. It ensures you never miss an episode and helps our ranking, allowing others to discover the podcast more easily.
If you really liked it, please share it with a friend and join our Citywide Blackout Facebook community, along with following us on Instagram at Citywide Max and at Citywide Interviews.
I'm your host, Max Bowen.
And I'm Curtis Hughes.
And we'll see you all next time.